Hi, I'm Dr. Ruth Anderson here with Enlightened World Network. Welcome to this episode of Enlightened Women. Grab a cup of coffee, your favorite beverage, settle in, and join us. Enlightened Women is a show about women who are consciously awake and choosing to fully embrace life. These are real women living real lives while walking in spirit. And some days, we allow what others think of us to have power over how we choose to put ourselves out into the world. Sometimes we think others, sometimes even strangers, have the ability to keep us small and from becoming all that we were meant to be. Our guest today is Neelam Minocha. Neelam is known as Britain's spiritual alchemist, healer, and channel. She's a popular radio host and quantum master with a unique gift of transporting clients and groups into other worlds and dimensions through her energy transmissions of divine love. It is my absolute honor to introduce you to Neelam Minocha. Neelam, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ruth. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Neelam, what life experiences have you had that have brought you to this place?
It was in 2008, actually, that I experienced a depression in my life. So I was a director in the corporate world. I was a high flyer at 28, and I'd always set the intention that I would be a director by 28. And it was in the world of accountancy. And my friends and colleagues, they used to say to me, it's not possible to even be a director by 28, more like 40. But I just was adamant that I would be a director by 28. And I was, by 28, I was in my office with, company car and laptop and all the things, the trimmings that you think make you happy. And I was sitting in my desk and I thought, wow, I made it. But that was the only goal I had, to be a director at 28. I hadn't thought beyond that. And I also felt pregnant at that time. So I got my dream job and then I felt pregnant and I was torn between motherhood and my career, my ambition. So I decided to have my son and stay at home after he was born because they wanted me back after 14 weeks and I just didn't want to leave him and go back. So within 5 months, my mother-in-law, she had cancer in her ovaries, and something in my gut said to me that maybe my pregnancy, even though she was so happy for me, something was triggered inside of her in her ovaries. And I know that she always wanted more children. And so maybe it triggered her own, desires for more children and maybe the guilt of not being able to have them. And so I cared for her for nearly 14 years.
Wow.
Every time I thought I'd go back to work, she'd get more and more sick. And so it was just something always pulled me away from going back. And 1 year went by, 2 years went by, 5 years went by. I started to get itchy feet because I wanted to use my brain. And it was, it's, any mother who says it's easy bringing up children, it's not, it's hard work. And I tried to do my best, but I was juggling her cancer and it was very severe, and bringing up the family and supporting my husband as well. So she just got sicker and sicker and I left my career on the back burner. But that feeling of not feeling valued, not doing what I came here to do, it started to eat me up inside. And slowly, I drifted into a depression. And it was in the last 2 years of her cancer where I just turned around and I said, I can't do this anymore. You need to get carers in. You need to get someone else to look after because I'm done. I have got no more to give. And I was like that with everything. I would give my all, I'd get completely burnt out, and then I'd come back and I'd have to pick myself off the floor because I literally gave all of me. And that's when then everyone had to pull their weight, and I just pulled away. I couldn't be around her because I was getting sick as well. I had no boundaries. And I noticed a pattern here. Every time I tried to go back to work, she would get more sick. Then I'd try to go back to work and then she'd get more sick. So she kind of became needy and dependent of my light and my ability to care for her. And so it was not a healthy relationship by the end. And so I had to pull myself out. I could see what was happening. And so that led to my depression, very, very dark place where when someone's in a depression, you can't reach them. All you can do is hold that space for them just tell them that you're there for them. But no one knew what I was going through. My husband wasn't able to reach me. He could see the sadness in my eyes, but he didn't know how to reach me. My friends didn't know what was going on with me, and I completely withdrew, and I went into my hermit mode, and I tried to work through it myself. And my husband was a GP, so I could have, he was a doctor, and I could have easily have gone on Prozac, but I chose not to. Something in my gut said, no, this is not the way for you. I was cleaning one day and there was a newspaper that came through the door, a local paper, and it said on the second page, I just opened the newspaper and it was there, meditation helps with depression. So I thought, oh, I didn't know what meditation was. I thought, let me have a go. It's no harm. It may help me. So I phoned the number and I left a message. It was an answer machine. And then I forgot about it. The following week again, the newspaper comes through my door. Again, I open it on that page. And again, I contacted the woman. She contacted me back. This happened 3 times actually. On the 3rd time, I knew that this was my message and I had to go and explore this. And I started to learn to meditate. And slowly, over a few months, I started to see a difference in myself, and it started to lift me out of my depression slowly and surely. And then with anything with energy, you lift your vibration and you start to meet new people, new synchronicities, new connections that take you to the next chapter of your life. And so I went on to a retreat where I met people and I had energy work done, and I started to clear a lot of the emotional baggage that I'd carried, from lifetimes actually, from being a healer and being publicly shamed and being, having to hide my gifts from the world. And so I'd always kind of been in the background and not really shown myself and who I am. And when I started to do my healing work, actually, I started to see things. And so the meditation really helped to open my third eye. And also in my meditation, I started to go and explore the cosmos. I just kind of knew where everything was out there. And when I did my healing, I just did an attunement with the angelic Reiki, because it was the angels that were guiding me all the way through this journey. I remember being on my retreat. And the first night I was there, I'd been crying all day because all of this emotion was coming up through me. And that night when I was sleeping, I woke up about 4 a.m. in the morning, and there was somebody at the end of my bed. And it was a tall man with long hair, very muscular, and it was an archangel. It was Archangel Michael. And I had all these light beams being sent into my body, so they were just coming into my body. I didn't understand what that was at the time, but the next day, I made a joke in the morning circle that there was this gorgeous man at the end of my bed and I didn't get any sleep, and he was really hot and really muscular. And then I went silent because it dawned on me that was Archangel Michael, and he was actually giving me energy and strength and love. That just took my breath away, because I realized how much love is around us and that we're never on our own. It really shifted things for me. Yeah, he's been coming through since yesterday, actually. And he wanted to talk about something, if I can just bring that up now. He said spiritual hierarchy, no. And he wanted me to talk about this today in this interview. What I experienced in my journey was when I started to really transform. So the depression was a wake-up call. It was, it's your time now. You came for this time. It's time for you to do your work that you've come here to do. My transition and my transformation was fast. So within 1 year, I was seeing clients, people were finding me from all over the world. I was running groups. It just went really big. And it was hard because it was like you were just growing on the spot and processing on the spot, and then running the groups and running, your healing practice. And I remember someone in the spiritual world who I looked up to. He actually threatened me and cornered me and said that you don't deserve to be a healer. It takes great responsibility to be a healer. And what I was actually doing was triggering his insecurities because he'd been doing it for so many years. What I've seen through this process when I work with clients, I see their soul and I see who they've been in past lives, and they've been mystics, and they've been medicine women, and they've been shamans, and they've been healers. They've been so much. And this lifetime is a culmination of all of those lifetimes, all of those gifts that are inside of us. You know, it's not like the physical world where you go to school and you go to college and then you go to university and then you do your masters. There's a process, and you are assessed by your education in the world. In the spiritual world, this cannot happen because we learn these modalities, and then it's, you have to follow it this way. You cannot go astray. You have to call in this being at this time. And I know when I did my healing, the attunement, I put my book away because I just don't like being restricted and given rules that you have to follow this. Your soul knows where it wants to take it. Your soul has so many gifts inside. And this is what I say to my clients and my groups. You're learning from me, but don't take what I say on board if it doesn't feel right for you. Take it your own way. Bring your uniqueness. I am not you and you are not me. You bring your soul gifts through, whatever feels right for you. If you want to work with sound, if you want to work with crystals, if you want to work with color, fractals, different colored fractals of light. What I do today in my healing practice, no one has taught me, because it's the soul remembering. And this is why in the spiritual world we cannot have hierarchy, because it's just the soul's journey. It depends how many lifetimes you've been here, what work you've done in previous lifetimes. All of that wisdom comes through your work. And so someone can awaken just like that and be off. And you cannot compare your 20 years or 30 years to that person doing it in that 1 year. If they've woken up and they're off. So this is why when I was doing my first group, there were some people in the group that actually, I always called in Archangel Michael for protection. This is just what I did because I felt his love, his courage, he gave me that courage to step forward. And I heard people saying that you can't protect the space with Archangel Michael. He's a fallen angel. And when they said that, that just cut me up inside. Every cell in my body just tensed up, because I said, no, he's not a fallen angel. You know, even to just think of that and have that kind of judgment, we have to remove that, because every being is beautiful. The soul is pure and beautiful in the core. And when I see a client, I see the soul, I see the purity, I see their heart. And yes, we have these stories and we have these emotions and we have the armor that we wear on the outside, but that's not who we are. We're here to help clear that armor, the stories, the imprints, so that we can reconnect with the beauty and the truth of who we are, which is love, which is purity, which is just, just so pure and beautiful. And so he wanted me to bring that up today, that no to spiritual hierarchy. It has to be removed now without judgment.
I appreciate everything that you've been saying. You and I have so many similarities in our paths as far as Reiki attunement, really bringing in the spiritual divinity, which surprised me. I had no idea that would be a side effect of that. Your connection with Archangel Michael, learning that particular rituals or incantations isn't the way to connect in with the spiritual divinity. It's really just reaching out and accepting and being one with them. And the spiritual hierarchy, thinking that someone else, because they have had many more years walking with spirit than I have, that I might put them on a pedestal and think that they are so much more wise or so much more connected than I am. But that isn't how God views spirit. That's not how Divine Mother views spirit or Archangel Michael. That spirit is spirit. So regardless of those delineations that we put here in the physical realm of, oh, you've been in the corporate world for 15 years and I've only been in for 1 year, that isn't how spirit works. So thank you so much for bringing that clarity.
welcome. Yeah, he really wanted to bring that through today. So, I was just honoring what he was saying in meditation, is that bring this up. This is something that we have to look at as a spiritual community and release judgment, because this is not how spirit works. Spirit sees everyone as equal. Everyone has their uniqueness, has their beauty, and it's to encourage that individuality, because we are all different essences and expressions of the divine. And yeah, I used to put people on a pedestal because I used to look up to them and think, wow, they have so much wisdom, they know so much. But the moment you connect with spirit, it starts to come through you, and you start to surprise yourself what is coming through you. And it's so beautiful, it's so poetic, and everyone has this connection. They just need to work on it and believe in it and trust it.
Well, and Neelam, one of the beautiful things about this summit is that Archangel Michael has shown me that we, as the speakers, we're saying, come walk beside us, take our hands, and let's move forward together. And it's not, let us teach you how to do this. It's, come on, come with us. We're in this. Let's go as one, and let's grow, and let's have these experiences together as one. So thank you for that validation of our work here.
You're welcome.
Taking you back to the conversation about your mother-in-law and those 14 years that you put your life on hold as far as your career. I'm sure some of the time with your son was sort of on hold while grandma was sick. And then you got to that point where you said, I can't do this. This isn't in my best interest. And I'm sure that was not an easy conversation to have, because you had been that caretaker for so many years, and others had learned to rely on you to step into that role and to, frankly, continue in that role until, I'm sure, your mother-in-law passed. What courage did that take to finally come forward and say, I have to be my own cheerleader here, and I can't keep putting your life before mine?
You said it, exactly, that people get used to you being the caretaker. And so, you're cooking for them, you're cleaning for them. I was looking after 2 houses as well. And when mum was having chemotherapy, I would take food to the hospital because she wouldn't eat the food there. I remember I would breastfeed my son, and then mum would be screaming upstairs for morphine because she was in so much pain. So I'd literally pull him off my breast and then run to her and take care of her. And then when I took her for her chemotherapy, I couldn't go near her because he was with me. I didn't leave him with anyone. And so I'd be sitting in the car for hours. You couldn't leave the hospital because the car park, it was so full, you couldn't get a space again. So I would sit for hours, pack for the day. We'd be in the car, and he would feed in the car, and then I'd take them all home. I had to have an Asian background. They expect a lot from the daughter-in-law, in that I had to have the dinner cooked, and everyone would come back from work. And I knew that there was more to me than just this, and I was happy to be a carer. But what I noticed over time was I started to get really bad wisdom teeth. My wisdom teeth started to hurt. My gums, I would clench them. I would get migraines, and I was just getting tense and angry, frustrated inside. And then I would just lash out. I would kind of my husband would come from work, and I would just lash out because I was frustrated. But I wasn't actually saying what I was feeling inside. It took the wisdom teeth, the gums, the pain, and a series of physical conditions actually that I started to experience for me to just step back and thought, what are you doing here? You had dreams, you had ambitions, you were a high flyer, and then you've just let yourself go. And I would tie my hair up, would wear makeup, stick on my leggings. There was no self-love there, and I'd kind of become a doormat. So it took a lot of courage to say to my husband, you know what, because I never asked for help. I thought I could cope with everything. But there came to a point where it was, I'm either in this hole and someone's going to have to look after my children, or I speak my truth. And it shook up the family. People had to pull their weight, which they had never done before. My father had to give up his job to look after mum, but I had also had a career. So, there was a kind of changing of roles, and I had to step away. So in the last 2 years of her illness, I wasn't around for her, and it played on my mind a lot, but I knew that was the most important decision I'd made, because it wasn't going to stop. It just wasn't going to stop, and I had to take care of myself. So it's a wake-up call for me.
You know what's interesting, though? The people who stepped in during those last 2 years, there may have been amazing healing and amazing connection between the two of them that never would have happened had you stayed in that role of caretaker.
Yes, and I realized that because this had something to do with their marriage and between them, and it was time for them to face that and look at that, because I realized that me carrying the illness and carrying mum, I wasn't actually allowing her to go through the process of why she had the cancer, and I wasn't doing my healing work then. So this is what I help people with now. I am able to see in their wounds, in their cellular memories, what's triggered the condition in their body. But at that time, I had a gut instinct, I had a feeling, but I wasn't doing the work that I'm doing now. And so bringing them two together, they had to make peace on a lot of things. And there was a karmic connection here where they had to go through this journey together. He needed to take care of her. And so it was time for me to definitely step out and let them go through their process together. Absolutely.
So really no guilt was required.
No. And this is the thing, guilt is a silent killer. But when you go on this spiritual journey, you realize that everything is perfect, everything is divine. And guilt is not necessary, because we've co-created every experience that we're going through. And it's just to surrender to it, allow it, and accept it. Whatever you're experiencing, accept it. Yeah? So I don't feel guilt anymore. Guilt was, my middle name all throughout my life. But not anymore, not when you understand from a deeper perspective the soul's journey. You step back. Yeah.
You made a brilliant comment about self-love. And when I think about body, mind, and soul coming together to really step into the soul's calling, I see that self-love is hugely important in that.
Self-love is actually everything. And it's not, I love myself from an egoic perspective, but self-love in valuing the self, respecting the self, caring for the self, being compassionate to the self, being kind to the self is everything. Once, it was about a few years ago, I had a conversation with myself, and I asked myself, what do you need from me? And it was fascinating what my soul said to me. Everything I did for others and my clients, caring for them, listening to them, being compassionate to them, holding space for them, loving them, my soul was telling me, you don't make time for me, you don't love me, you don't respect me, you don't care for me, you don't listen to me, and sometimes I cry out and I scream, but you're not hearing me. And that really made me step back, and I thought, wow, everything we do externally is I learn now from all of my clients. I process everything that I share with them, everything that's channeled. I also take it back and I say, am I doing this? Am I being authentic? Am I walking my walk and talking my talk? And if I'm not, I will most definitely look at that and shift it. So yes, self-love is everything. If you respect you, then people will respect you. If you value who you are and what you bring to the table, others will value you and what you bring to the table. It all starts with the self, and this has been my biggest lesson in this lifetime, learning to love myself. And most people are on this journey of learning to love themselves.
I think a big piece of that loving yourself is forgiving yourself.
Yes. Yes, I picked a card today actually, and it was said, forgive yourself. It was Archangel Michael's card. It said, forgive yourself, you've done nothing wrong. And this is exactly, it's forgiving yourself and accepting yourself wherever you are at. And forgiveness leads to healing, leads to release, and leads to opening up of just compassion. It really does. So yeah, that was his card today. Forgive yourself. You've done nothing wrong. I thought, oh, so beautiful.
Thank you for that validation, by the way. Neelam, in your work with clients, have you had the opportunity to work with folks that are dealing with issues of prejudice or discrimination?
I think people do experience that throughout their lives. So, religious discrimination or age, or there are many factors that people come to me with. And it's always in the solar plexus, so it's the power center that they are experiencing powerlessness or disempowerment. So I try and look at the situation from a higher perspective and see what the roles the people are playing and what the lesson is that the soul has come to learn. What I always say to clients and my groups is that beyond this dimension, so if there is gender prejudice or any of that, beyond this dimension there is no gender. And when I've channeled the Galactic Federation and beings from other dimensions, they say that gender is only a human creation of separation. I take people up to higher dimensions and I show them that beyond this dimension, what they are. And the moment we leave this dimension, what happens is like a rocket. If you think of a rocket going up into space, the outer casing comes off and it gets lighter in form. What happens when we go up to the higher dimensions, and I take them with me, so I hold their hand and we go together, I see the physical suit literally come off. It literally comes off. And this is an issue that I've had with myself all my life, to accept my body, because I was felt tight and restricted and trapped in my physical body. I couldn't be everything that I wanted to be. So a lot of my journey has been to integrate, and this is something that I also share with clients, to accept the body, because the body and the form that you've taken, because it enables you to do your work here on the physical plane through this identity that you've chosen. So to embrace this body temple, to embrace the gender that you've chosen to be here. And when you accept yourself, these issues outside, they will disappear, because it's something in you that you are not accepting who you are. And so as they start to process that and understand that, and I take them to the higher dimensions, they see that the moment you leave, you become this beautiful bubble of energy, golden light. And literally what happens with me and my client, we like this, you become one. And there's just so much love, so much connection. You become one heartbeat. There's just no separation. It's like magnets, you come together. And so we forget, the physical suit that we have, the identity, it gives us an experience here on earth. We learn about emotion, limitation. We learn about pain and suffering through our physical vessel. We learn about duality. But the moment we leave this dimension, we are one. We are one. And what's happening now on earth is we are actually taking our physical body for the first time ever in the history of our evolution to the higher dimensions. And so this is why we are going through such change in our bodies. Our cellular structures are changing. Our DNA is changing. We are evolving into light beings in our physical vessel. And so it's going to be amazing what happens, because you're going to become a conscious being on the planet. You're awakening. So your masculine and your feminine is coming into balance. And yet you have a physical identity which says you're a man or a woman or a boy or a girl. But over time, what's going to happen is you're going to see another being as a soul, a conscious being on the planet. And so those who haven't awakened as yet may find this very strange, that you're being attracted to maybe the same gender, or you're connecting romantically to another being, and you're in a marriage or something like that. But what's happening is that you are awakening on a deeper level, and you're a conscious being, and you're just feeling love for this other being who's also on the same frequency. So I feel it's going to cause a lot of chaos for a while, where different people are at different levels of awakening. but actually we're all moving towards oneness, unity, coming together, love. You know, it is love that unites us. It is honesty. It is truth. It's vulnerability. It's acceptance. Having integrity, unconditional love, love without conditions. That's hard to ground here on earth, but that's where we're heading. So it's going to be a lot of change over the next few years, lots of change, but there is no gender beyond this dimension. So again, we have to let go of these discriminations and prejudices.
So what I'm hearing is that because we are humans in bodies here, and there are things that we choose to allow to divide us from other people, whether it's politics or in some cases race or whatever it is that we choose to keep other people away from us. If we're really struggling with someone, I'm hearing in your words that I can think of that person as a spiritual being and really connect in with them as a spiritual being and kind of remove all of those layers of things that we use to divide us.
Yeah, I think what changed for me in my life was I realized that I, as a soul, before I even come here, I've co-created every experience that I'm going to experience. And so if you know that you are the co-creator of every experience, you then cannot blame another person for your experience because you have a part in that. And so it changes the perspective on everything. So then you start to step back and think, okay, so this person has come into my life, they're triggering me. What can I learn from this? And that's when meditation and tools like that help you step back from your experience and have a look at the dynamics. And I would always say every challenge comes to help you grow. It helps to help you evolve, and it helps to bring light into your life, because things will never be the same again. But we look at challenges as things that pull us down and, you know, an inconvenience, and we're so busy we can't deal with this right now, but actually we need to deal with these things, otherwise they'll keep repeating. So every person that triggers you, they are here to teach lessons. They're mirrors. What in you is being triggered? What wounded part in you is being triggered that wants to come into wholeness? And that's how I look at my life, and it's really shifted things for me. And that's how what I try to pass on to others. And that's when you let go of blame and anger, it changes everything.
And just that change in perspective changes it from a me against you to a we are all united. If that person who triggers me is here to teach me, then actually I'm walking with them, I'm working with them. So what a uniting aspect or uniting perspective that is.
Yes, it is. And you know, we've played many roles in many lifetimes. And sometimes you may be experiencing something with a soul in this lifetime, and you may be really caught up in that. And sometimes when I take people back to another lifetime, they've been on that journey together. So we tend to incarnate with the same souls. But there's a different scenario there. And maybe if that person is looking after you in this lifetime, you looked after them in the other lifetime. So it kind of plays off. But what it helps someone to do is to just step back and think, oh, okay, I'm able to see the bigger picture of what's playing out here. This is something that we've chosen. This is karmic, and then we have to just move through this and understand our lessons. And if we can do that, there's no more animosity. It dissolves completely, and the pattern stops playing because we've understood the lesson.
That's great. Thank you. That I'm excited about life again. So thank you. So Neelam, you are here to teach others, but you are also here to learn. This is your spiritual journey as well. So what are the latest things that Spirit's been teaching you on your spiritual journey?
Unconditional love. And this is what I'm here to be and teach. I'm also going through it myself, because since January, February of this year, I've been seeing the hand of the divine saying, come on, you know, you said at this time you would take my hand and give all of you to me, and we will go on this journey together. but my physical human self is saying, but my family and my kids, and I'm not ready. And I hear spirit saying, no, come on, you said when your kids are grown up, you'll be ready. That time is now. So I've been going through this process through the eclipses of letting go and detaching from my family, because yes, my kids have grown up, and yet still I'm saying, oh, but my husband, and I know I'm here to channel, be the embodiment of the Divine Mother and channel unconditional love. And I've seen this vision for 5 to 7 years, the same vision, channeling this frequency of unconditional love. And so I've got to detach now and let go and know that my family will be taken care of, because the children of the earth need the love, the unconditional love. And this is the love that heals the soul. It opens us up. It is the doorway to everything in the universe. It's the language of the heart. And so it's this unconditionally giving to myself, unconditionally loving myself, unconditionally accepting myself. That has been my lesson through these last few months, and especially in July. It's been quite painful, because there's been a lot of emotion around it. But the soul is not remembering that I made a promise, and there's a contract, soul contract, and it's time. And so things are shifting, the dynamics are shifting. We've had these conversations in the family, and it's time for me to say yes to spirit. I'm ready. Wherever you want me to serve, I'm ready. I'll go. So unconditional love is the lesson right now.
Well, thank you so much for your vulnerability in sharing that. As you speak, I can so see Divine Mother's love just coming down through you and out to us. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So Neelam, if somebody wants to follow you and learn more about your work, how do they find you?
So they can contact me on my website. So it's www.neelamminocha.com. I have a Facebook page, and I'm on Instagram if they look me up. I also have a group in London, but I do transmissions all over the world, so they can just email me, and on my website all my work is listed there. So I'm happy to help anyone on their journey if they're stuck.
I cannot thank you enough for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's very beautiful. And I thought that your series is really authentic. And sometimes, we don't go into these questions and ask these questions that are coming up in your series, but you've created that space for that vulnerability. And we have to be vulnerable. We have to go into that space, because if we don't, it's kind of, when you're vulnerable, it gives someone else permission to be vulnerable as well. And you can go even deeper into emotion and love and connection and conversation. So vulnerability, I feel, is really, really important. Being authentic, not bypassing what you're experiencing in your own life, sharing it. Because we're all here, we're human, and as long as we're human, we're learning our lessons, whether we're on the spiritual path, whether we're teachers, whether we're guiding others. We are also learning, processing, and then sharing what we've learned. So authenticity and vulnerability is so important.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Ruth.